The program will start in 5 minutes. Testing, testing. Is it possible if we can ask everyone to please take your seats? If it's possible for everyone to please take your seats, thank you. All right, everyone, if it's possible to please take a seat. Everybody, everyone's going to have plenty of time to chat and fabrang. If you notice how we purposely set up the tables in a way that everyone can see each other, everyone can feel Sheva Zachem Gam Yachad, get to know your cousins, spend more time with your cousins. But we're all here to honor Bubby, and we're asking everybody to please allow this program to go smoothly, and please listen to what everyone's saying regarding Bubby and their experience. This is something that I'm sure we can all learn from. Before we start actually getting into stories about Bubby and talking about the Yartzeit, it's important that we want to start with saying the Rebbe's Kapitel. We want to ask one of the future best Bachrim Lubavitch, Dovber Simpson, followed by Dovber Junik, Beryl Junik, is going to say Bubby's Kapitel. Huh? Avi Simpson.
Shamal Silachas Zena Yeshvi Bashamayim. Hinechene Avadim Yadinayam. Keine Shivcha Ya Gevirta. Keine Neno Adinai Leino Ad Shechaneno. Chaneno Adinai Chaneno Kirasavana Rabba Sava Lana Sheno Alakashananim. Aboz Agayanim.
Okay, 1 second. Now now you'll say Bubby's Kapitel, which is Tzad Gimel.
Adinai Malach Geyo Slavish Slavish. Adinai I his Azar. After David Batimite. Nachan Kisacha Meaz Me'alam Ata. Nasu Naharais Adinai Nasu Naharais. Kailam Yisu Naharais Tachyam. Mikailas Mayim Rabim Adirim. Mishpreyam Adir. Pamarim Adinai. Eisacha Naam Nu Me'aid. Leveischa Nava Kaidash Adinai Layachamim.
Thank you, Abi. Very, very nice, beautiful. We also have over here Dovber Junik, Itchel's son. wants to come say hello. Anyways, welcome, welcome everybody. It's hard to believe that this is the first Yartzeit of Bubby Junik, so good evening. And thank you for joining me today as we gather to remember and honor my mother, Fruma Junik, on her first Yartzeit. It's hard to believe a year has passed since we said goodbye to her physical presence. Yet her spirit, her strength, and her love continues to fill our lives every single day. My mother, Fruma Junik, was a force of nature, as we all know. She was a woman whose very entrance into a room commanded attention. Not through effort, but simply because of who she was. Her personality was huge, vibrant, and unmistakable. When she walked in, everyone knew it. She carried herself with a confidence and a clarity of purpose that left no doubt of what she stood for. She was also a proud chassid, a devoted wife to my father, or to our Zaidi, Haraber Yunik Mashbach, and the matriarch whose influence reached far beyond just our immediate family, but also the first cousins. I don't know if you guys know, but Bubby and Zaidi Yunik's house was the hub during the years of the Rebbe that everybody came and stopped by Bubby's house to eat all the meals on all the Yom Tovim. One of the roles that Bubby held very dear was her time as the president of Lubavitch Women's Organization. And this wasn't just her title, it was a mission. She poured her heart into it, having many speaking engagements and fundraising. She believed in action and doing, and she never shied away from leading by example. Her personality made things happen. But what made her truly special wasn't just her public presence, it was her character. My mother was never afraid to speak her mind. She had an opinion, strong ones, and she wasn't timid about sharing them. If she saw something that needed to be said or done, she would say it or do it, no hesitation. Yet, for all her strength, she had an incredible sense of boundaries. She never meddled in anyone's personal affairs, marriages, relationships, private struggles. She respected people's lives and focused on lifting up, not interfering. Achri Moitz Kedoshim, by the way. But to me, she was my mother. She raised us, my siblings and me. She stood by my father, who served as the Rebbe Mashbach, with grace and dedication, supported him in his holy work while also building a home that radiated warmth and chassidishkeit. She faced unimaginable challenges growing up in communist Russia, losing her father to exile, fleeing war-torn lands, yet she emerged not hardened but resolute. She turned hardship into purpose. She taught us to do the same. Her life was a testament to the resilience and emunah born to Rabbi Avraham Baruch Pesner and Alta. She was raised in the home of Mesiras Nefesh, where Torah and Chassidus were non-negotiable, even under oppression. She carried that legacy forward, marrying my father on the 9th of Sivan with the Rebbe himself as Mitzad Condition, a moment that tied her even closer to the heart of the Rebbe. Together they built a family of 8 children, and she nurtured us to follow us in the path of the Rebbeim, each of us finding our own way to serve Hashem and our community. In her later years, my mother faced a new challenge, dementia. It softened the edges of her reality, and in that world, she held on to the presence of all her children, including our dear late brother, Avraham Baruch, our second 3 oldest brother who left us 8 years ago. She didn't know he was gone. In a way, that was her heart's way of keeping him close. For us, his loss was a deep one, but for her, he remained a living part of her days, a testament to the love she carried for him and for all of us. Today, we mark her first Yartzeit. I feel her presence so strongly. I see her in the faces of all my siblings, from Yosef Yitzchak, Avraham Baruch, Nechamala, Shamshi, Mary Shlema, Menachem, myself, and Chani, and in the lives of her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I hear her voices and the lessons she left us, to stand tall, to speak truth, to love fiercely and to never compromise with who we are. She was a woman who lived with intention, and she left a legacy that will endure. Mommy, that you are our rock, our guide, our pride. You showed us what it means to be a true Eishes Chayil, a woman of valor. In her final years, you held on to your husband and Avram Baruch in your heart, and now now you are reunited with them in a place of peace. As we light the Yartzeit candle, I pray that her neshama have an aliyah, and that you're at rest in Gan Eden, and that you continue to watch over us. We miss you more than words can say, but we carry you with us as always. May your neshama and your memory be a blessing, and may we honor you by living the way you taught us, and to grow up and to have a chassidisha, nachas from all the children. I would now like to introduce each one of my siblings, including my sisters, actually, to say a couple words. And after that, we have a very special video presentation that is going to be very touching. If you think the books that you see on the table are impressive, those fancy booklets that look like Neshech Chabad journals, the video is going to blow you guys away. And that's going to be thanks to one of our dear nieces, which we'll talk about in a moment. And after that, we're going to have a few of our nephews and nieces who are going to say a few words. And if anybody else would like to talk after that, please reach out to me. So as we all know, that the oldest Bechar in the family, the leader of the pack, the one who knew Bubby and Zaidi before all of us, the one who had interactions with Bubby, who was sent away from the house at an earlier age, learned in yeshivas in Puromã and other places that ultimately led to her beautiful Sada. We're going to ask now my oldest brother, Harav Yosef Yitzchak, to come and say a couple words.
Good evening, everybody. Everybody knows that David read my speech beautifully, Baruch Hashem. I couldn't have said it better. Ich rede nicht zu der Sache, was?
Man hört nicht, go.
Man hört nicht. Ich habe gebeten, dass ich rede nicht zu der Sache. Anyways, one of my earliest memories that I have was when I came back from kindergarten or pre-1A. I remember coming home and I wanted chocolate milk, and I asked for chocolate milk, and I got a bottle of chocolate milk, and I lay down in my bed and I drank it. I have this vivid memory of mommy serving me the chocolate milk. And as we all know, mommy was a big balabuster. The house was always in order. Supper was always served, Baruch Hashem. She was very attentive. She always helped out with the homework, etc., etc. She even cleaned the house with us as well around the table once in a while, but that never happened, so. Anyways, I would like to say that most of you don't know, but Bubby was the first Jewish producer of a record before what's his name? Before yes, before Pirchei and also before Yontel Erlich. When we were little kids, Mommy took me and Avram Baruch Al Vashalom. She took us to most probably to RCA studio, and she went and she recorded a 78 RPM record that she sang for us, And this was the famous domino, which everybody in the family knows or have definitely heard. See what else? Oh, I was going to say something else. It just slipped my mind, so it must be not so important. Anyways, so the mamas, the shamas are having aliyah. I'm going to finish off because since I'm not such a great speaker, I'll leave it to others, like maybe my Batsheva, my Sarachke, who's not talking today, even though she can. Well, I'd like to wish her a lichten Gan Edens and a gute better at the Einiglach and the Ureiniglach, and whoever needs Parnosa, Shidduchim, and Nachas, for all the Mershem, she should beten for alle Kinder in Mershem. Zecher sein to be united bim Herre wie Meinu, ad Beis Mashiach Tzidkeinu. Amen.
I'm speaking on behalf of my sister and I, even though we're totally two different generations, but I'm including her in my speech. First of all, our family, especially I, owe a very huge debt of gratitude to three brothers of mine, Shamshi, Shleima, and David, for always taking care of my mother. They were always on top of her medical care and her regular care and visited continuously round the clock, so I could live very peacefully in Pittsburgh, and all of us could live wherever we're living, and they really were super dedicated. You don't hear me, okay. Another family who deserves enormous credit is, of course, the Spielman family, Chani and Shalom Ber. I don't think any one of us knows the extent of what they did for Bubby. When David came over Friday night and we just started talking, we were sitting with them together, and we were remembering the days when the dementia first began, and Bubby would fall asleep like 6, 7 o'clock, and then she'd wake up at 2, 3 in the morning ready to party. So she would go and wake up Musya. If we were there, she would go and wake us up in the middle of the night. So the Spielmans were there for every single step of the way, and these are things, just saying gratitude and thank you is the most we can do, but the Eibishter, who's the Kol Yachol, keeps a very good cheshbon. I really want to take everybody back to the early years of my mother. I feel a lot of you knew her in the later years, and I'm going to give you some of the impressions of the early years. Some of the early years can be seen in Shayna's thesis that was reprinted. Thank you, David, and my granddaughter, Rachela. But I want Bubby's, you have to understand a little bit the context of the times. It was war and post-war, and Chabad was a tiny community. And there was very few Lubavitcher girls. There was no Lubavitcher Chinuch per se, and there was very few Lubavitch girls. As a matter of fact, most of the girls in my class ended up marrying beautiful frum girls from other circles who became Chabad, because they had Beis Yaakov, so they didn't have anything. So along came someone like Bubby, who was a beautiful girl, a spontaneous, a sparkly personality, very outgoing, very adventurous, and she comes to Paris very confident, very learned. She always says, you'll see in the book she wrote, her best years of her life was in Paris. She got to go to school, she got to learn, and they seriously sat and learned all the time to make up for what she never had. So Bubby, you have to understand, was a great catch. To have a Chabad girl, a beautiful Chabad girl, was highly unusual in those days. Bubby used to regale us with funny stories of how different people were after her. And then Baruch Hashem, though she met my father, and Baruch Hashem is a Gevarna Shidduch. Most of you know that Zaidi was, of course, very excited to get engaged to Bubby. And he didn't, Bubby thought she's going to have one more date, but Zaidi went into the Rebbe and asked, he says he wants to become a chassan and have a mazel tov, and the Rebbe gave him a bracha, v'binyan adayad, and then he said to the Rebbe, I want the Rebbe to please be Masada Kedushin at our chasana. So the Rebbe said, Masada Kedushin belongs to Kala's tzad. So Zaidi asked, ich bet, in the number from the Kala, as the Rebbe Zalzai Masada Kedushin. And Bubby always described she was at work. She came home from school, and there Zaidi met her with a cake and mashka and wished her mazel tov for being a Kala. My brother's saying the Rebbe asked my father, did you ask the girl yet? So my father said, no, he's asking for the girl. He knew something good. Growing up, as some of my brothers alluded to, Bubby had a very, very open home. I have very distinct memories. I have a lot of boy cousins and I have a lot of brothers. And I remember once counting the Shabbos table. There was 22 men around the table and my mother and I. That was really my whole childhood growing up. We had a very, very open home. And all the out-of-town cousins, everybody knew they can come and always eat by Bubby. They usually slept by Nechama or by Yudis because they had extra bedrooms in the front. But the eating and all the Farbringings and everything took place at our home. Bubby's home was an open home to everybody. Another thing, Bubby was an immaculate, immaculate housekeeper. I remember as a young girl, I got up once Friday night at 3:45 in the morning, and Bubby was still cleaning up the house. She could not go to sleep till every counter was clean, till every room was swept. It's a wonderful gene, and whoever has it, kol hakavod lahem. I remember many years ago in your youth, when you have a lot of complaints and a lot of tinnitus and a lot of everything, I once complained to my mother. I was already a married woman, by the way, and I once complained to my mother saying something about my upbringing that could have been a little bit, my eyes a little bit better or different. And my mother said something so powerful to me. She said, I never, ever grew up with parents. I never saw marriage. I never saw parents. I never saw children being raised. And when I thought about her whole generation, that really describes the generation who raised us. They did it by the skin of their teeth and the best way they knew how. And I always say, so we take the best of what our parents did and we improve it the next generation, and the next generation takes all the good from all of us and improves it for the next generation. And that was, to me, a very, very pivotal moment in looking at people very differently and realizing that everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. One of the most beautiful things, the Rebbe would always, there's many, many stories, of course, with Zaidi and Bubby and the Rebbe, but my mother would always say whenever she approached the Rebbe, for any little thing, the Rebbe would give her this huge smile. She was always zeicha to these huge smiles. And she would always say, why is the Rebbe smiling to me? Why is the Rebbe giving me such kiruv? And then years later, she says, I think the Rebbe's telling me thank you. Because my father was a very, very busy person. I tell many people that they almost don't, I say, I rarely saw my father growing up. Because it came in the winter months, I went to sleep early because I was in elementary school. My father went to Shechita class. He came home at 10:30, which I was already asleep. He was gone 6:45 every day, no matter what. He left to davening. I wouldn't see my father till Friday night. There was many, many times. So my mother had the whole burden of raising the whole family and doing everything. And Baruch Hashem, she was very capable that she was able to do that. But she did it with simcha, without complaining. And whenever my father was needed in Beis Rav or whatever was going on, she let him go. So she always said, the Rebbe gave me the smile for allowing my husband to do what he needs to do. Being that we think we're 18, I think I'm going to adapt my mother's theory of being 18 years old. I think it's a beautiful theory. The more I get older, the more I think I'm going to reverse backwards. But I give a lot of thought to something very important to me and to my siblings and to many one of us, is the concept of keeping a family together. And what is it that keeps a family together, and how do you keep a family together, and especially when there's so many different and disparate people? And it's something I actually give a lot of thought to because it's something that's very negated to me with my children and my grandchildren. And I try to think of ways, what is it that you see families that are very close, What is it that they have that we can emulate? And maybe I'm not correct. You're welcome to argue with me about it. But I began seeing that sometimes it's a choice. Feeling close, acting close, and being close is a choice. The person is not like you, your relatives are not like you, but you say hello to them, and you smile at them, and you accept them. You find out who their children are. If you live in the same town, you invite each other. You try to make an effort to take all your siblings' children and keep them close to you. Because you're my sibling's grandchild, I love you. I'm your aunt. I'm your great aunt. There's a choice. And I was thinking, you know, I'm coming. We all know there's the Juniks and the Pevsners, right? So we have that dichotomy going on in our family with a lot of Juniks and a lot of Pevsners. I think I have half and half. But I began realizing that I've learned that I have to step up to a plate sometimes in situations that are uncomfortable, things that are not out of my comfort zone, because there's something bigger going on. There's the unity of a family and trying to keep everybody together. And I think that is the biggest nachas we can give to Bubba and Zayda, to Tati and Mommy, to know where we're coming from, know where we're going, and keep us close together. And I just want to tell you on the a picture just came over on my other side of the family, and it was such a touching picture to me. And actually, Levi Munshine had a big hand in it. Someone once said casually, does anybody know where our Elter Zayda, Chaim and Zion Raskin is buried? So Levi did some research, and they found out where he's buried. And they posted a picture now of 5 or 6 young children, 13, 14, 15, 16, all posing in front of Chaim ben Zion's caver. These are all derivatives, cousins from all different sides. We asked them, please write who everybody is, who's their parents, who's their grandparents. But they all had this feeling of a closeness. 5 and 6 generations later, these are our Zaydas and Bubba, and we are a family, and they made the effort. So Mirz Hashem, we should have it live, that our Elter Zaydas and our Elter Bubbas and our parents should be back live, and they'd be able to say, Ru Gedolim Kshegedaltem, and we should give them a lot of Hasidish nachas.
I was told to keep it up for under 30 minutes. Right, Itchel? Well, I'm going to have to cut my couple of words short because between all the previous speakers, they covered most topics. But I'd just like to add that we're all born with 2 names. The name we're given and the name we make and create for ourselves. And we all know that Bubby kept on creating and reinventing her name, growing and doing more and more good things and special things. And all this is despite how Bubby grew up with the trauma of the communism at the time, and with her having to leave home at age 5 because the law was that if you did not go to school, they would arrest your parents. So they send her to Moscow from Kharkov so she can live with her aunt and she can stay and hide over there. Now, it's a 750-mile trip. Even thinking about Montreal today, which is 500 miles, is a long trip. Imagine 750 miles in the mid-1930s. She was there for a while, then Bubby came back. And imagine growing up that you have a memory that your father is holding you, but you don't know if that's on Simchas Torah or that's before he was taken away and never seen again. But despite all that, Bubby chose to not be a victim. She chose to live with Simchas HaChaim, with joy, and to rise above the trauma of her youth. She was the epitome of simcha. She had simcha sachayim, vibrancy, and the younger generation knows that how Bubby always liked to dance, right, David? Right, around the table, sure. And Bubby, as she always said, she was unique. She said, I am Mrs. Unique. She always proud to be married to Zaidi and of his involvement in Beis Harav. She was always proud to be able to help out and do anything to help Zaidi. When Bubby was asked after Pesach to bake chocolate cake, because between the Farbrengen and Koshel Bracha, it was almost morning, and it was hours after Yontif, so this way the Rebbe could have some chametz after the Rebbe came back into his room. And that happened only, I believe, for maybe 2 years, but Bubby was always very proud of that. When I worked at the Rebbetzin didn't want my mother should have tightness to her. Is that I'm helping her and I'm not helping my mother. So she would always ask me, did you help your mother? So I would come in the morning, I'd say, Ma, could you give me a list of whatever you need me to do? And my mother gave me a small list, I would do it, and then afterwards I was free for the rest of the day. As mentioned, Bubby had an open home. It was full of guests, a lot of food. I remember when I got engaged to Mindy, I said, my mother used to have at least 5 salads on the table, so I expect her to do that as well. So she was traumatized. She was worried that she has this high standard to really live up to. Baruch Hashem, she built on Bubby's standards, and Baruch Hashem. Anyways, I'd like to end off with the idea of V'acha yiten eliboy. All these stories are good, and it's nice. But the bottom line is we have to remember that we need to live our life the way Bubby wanted us to live, to be mekusher, to be chassidish, to do the right thing, daven every day. We all remember how Zaidi used to learn with Bubby Tanya every morning. I would suggest all the husbands do likewise. And the main thing is to keep up the simchas hachayim, the joy and the positivity, and remember who we are and what we stand for and how we need to move forward. L'chaim, l'chaim. Oh,
Everybody, good evening. Yeah, we're celebrating a year since Bobby's passing. I'm speaking in the mic. David, you guys spoke most of the stuff already. What am I going to say? But I'll figure something out as I go. Testing. Yeah. So Baruch Hashem, Bobby had a lot of energy. She had a lot of simchas hachayim, and she was always on the go. And she always wanted to know things, and I grew up as a child. Baruch Hashem, I gave her a very easy time growing up. I remember Bubby used to, I remember Bubby used to chase us. Remember Bubby used to chase us, and sometimes we used to run into the toilet. We used to hold the door. Ma, trying to. She was strong, and Tati would scream, "Fruma, Fruma, Musiva, take it easy, take it easy." He said in Russian, "Take it easy." But anyways, Bubby, Baruch Hashem, put us on a pedestal. She had the energy. She was a strong woman, and she put us in place plenty of times. And as a kid, I remember going with her shopping. She was very aristocratic. I went with her to A&S, Abraham and Strauss. I don't know whoever knows Abraham and Strauss is. Today I think it's Macy's. But years ago, it used to be Abraham and Strauss. And we used to go Bubby used to go shopping there and used to buy I don't know what she bought, but as a kid, I went along. We used to go onto the subway. I remember the subways in the old days. There was by Abraham and Strauss on Hoyt Street. There used to be an entrance to the Abraham and Strauss. Do anybody remember it? Yes, Yitzchak, do you remember Nachamala? You remember it? On Abraham and Strauss, there was an entrance straight from the store into the subway. What? Oh, they just closed it down, but I think it was closed for years already. David, you sold that building. David sold the building, so David, maybe get us in so we can see go back our history. Baruch Hashem, Bubby, Baruch Hashem had a schus with my other siblings, had a schus to help Bubby out, and in the older years when things got difficult for her, and she spent a lot of time in the cleaners. The truth is, I think the Einiklach should come up and each one say something what they remember from Bubby, because I think they had a good interaction with her, especially in the cleaners was a stop where everybody used to stop by and see Bubby there. And Bubby enjoyed herself with the cleaners. She used to wash, she used to walk in, and she used to comment about this one, comment about that one. And if she didn't like somebody, she'll make a little face, but you know how Bubby was. But Baruch Hashem, Bubby enjoyed the cleaners, and she enjoyed a good cheese Danish. She used to sit by the window, and she used to point to me in the later years. She used to point to me on Kosher Town. She used to point to me there. So I knew right away, "Frag ma, was willst du?" Sagt sie mir, a Danish. So I took mommy across the street, and she had a cheese Danish. But she enjoyed herself. She always had a simple chaim. She enjoyed going into the car for rides. And I used to walk her, and sometimes people used to think that Bubby is my home attendant because I was the one with the white beard. So I was, she was the younger one. And anyways, did everybody have the original teeth here? You know the joke with the teeth? Bubby used to say, take out your teeth, Chani. Bubby, it's a family joke. When when Chani was born, when she was in the hospital, they asked her, Mrs. Junik, could you please take out your teeth? So Bubby's looking on them, what do you mean to take out the teeth? It's my teeth. Because Bubby always looked young. Bubby always carried young. Till the last day, she, Baruch Hashem, carried very young. And Baruch Hashem, we got to be thankful to Hashem. That Baruch Hashem, Bubby, she had a beautiful life. She had a Simchas HaChaim life. And she always had the energy and always carried along and gave us the energy. And that's why we all have energy. And hopefully she passed it on to her children. You can look in this beautiful room here with all the energy that is here. That's Bubby's energy. Each child, each anicle carries Bubby's energy with them. Also, I'd like to say, hold on, I think I'm getting a phone call from Bubby. Hold on, 1 second. No, because sometimes Bubby, hold on, she might be calling. Yeah, 1 second.
Fruma Junik, Baruch Hashem, sie gestammt von guten sources. A guter Kopf mit a guter Herz. The Persons haben a guter Kopf und the Juniks haben a guter Herz. So it's a good combination. Freiliche Kosher am Pesach.
Wow. So here, Bubby's wishing us a Freilichen Kosher and Pesach. So I want to wish everybody a Kosher Freilichen Pesach. I know about Bubby, there's a lot to talk about Bubby. You have to refresh the memories. But I wish everybody a Kosher Freilichen Pesach and Mitzvah Hashem, we should be reunited, everybody, together with Zaidi and together with Avram Baruch and together with the Rebbe, and we should all get out of this gullus and take it from Yad Mamish. Akosher Velchem Pesach. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Yeah. You know that Bubby always used to say that Mashiach lost his GPS, but I must say that looking around the room tonight, Baruch Hashem, you can say that Mashiach found his GPS. So we see the Kinder, Ure Niklach, and alle there since the vision, Bubby and Zaidi, and having Nachas, Mashiach is coming. Bubby's fingers back on the pulse on the GPS, Baruch Hashem. So much was said about Bubby Kain Hara. I remember once we were in Heathrow Airport. Bubby was going back home, and as we walked over to the check-in desk, to the counter, so the gentleman walks over to Bubby and says, "Excuse me, ma'am, are you first class?" And she didn't have to fly first class, just that comment itself. And she went to economy, back in the back, but she felt $1 million. Ma'am, are you first class? You know, Bubby, Baruch Hashem, you know, Bubby had a style of her own. And everything that she did, Bubby took ownership of. I'm not talking about putting things in the freezer. Shamshi, what was it called? Fresh? Better than fresh. Yeah, by the way, anybody opening up a business? Yeah, anything that comes from the freezer is better than fresh. That's a good one-liner. But the thing is like this, is that, you know, Bubby used to go shopping, and then she used to buy something. She went to Mrs. Frankel, and she made it her own, and only then did she wear it. And I remember also when she was in England, she went with Judith Roxon, I think maybe Nechama Lazar, the three sisters. So they went to Marks and Spencer, and they wouldn't leave the country till they went shopping in Marks. And she always had her way, how she expressed herself. But I think the most important thing is, and I was thinking about it on Shabbos, tonight, tomorrow, is Beis Nissan, which, first of all, it's, don't know how many years, but it's wedding anniversary of Baruch, Alva Shalom, and Tzipi Zayin Gesund. Beis Nissan, Shvi Abraham Mitzvah, and also Beis Nissan is the Yartzeit of the Rebbe Rashab. And the Rebbe Rashab said, Ich gehe in Himmel und die Ksavim lasse ich euch. I'm going to heaven, but I'm leaving you the Ksavim, the manuscripts. And I believe that that's what Bubby lived. You know, Bubby's life was really full of impact. You know, Shamshi mentioned about the chocolate cake, and I talk about it back in London, that we were at the Rebbe's Fabregen, at Kirsche Bracha, and we came home, there was a chocolate cake ready to eat. And Bubby put away the whole Pesach. On her own, basically, more or less, besides the heavy stuff. But to be able to live one's life and say, you know what, that's what is important. Bubby never felt it was too much of a burden. But, you know, the Achnosus Arachim, or my father being by the Rebbe, or us being by the Rebbe. Shamshi, I think I did better than you, because Shamshi said that when the Rebbe asked if he helped at home, he went and he asked Bubby for a list. So when the Rebbe asked me if he helped at home, I didn't ask for a list. I used to go to mommy, and I did something for her for a second and finished. I left a list for Shamshi. You know, one of the things about Bubby also is, Bubby spoke. And I remember when she was in the country, where only men spoke in the bungalow colony. But somebody said, so Mrs. Junik reden. Even all the Greise Chassidish Yidden, they all said Bubby could speak. And Bubby got up there, the way she spoke about, you know, the Zayda, the Bubba, the Mesiris Nefesh. And to be able to experience that and to see that, but even for everybody to know that that was important for Bubby. It wasn't about just the challenges of the past, but she created a home where we could be Yidden and Chassidim and connected to the Rebbe, and she did everything without any, complaining, kvetching, or where's this, where's that. She knew it was for the Rebbe. Also, very good memories I have. So Bubby, when you bought L'chaim Tovim, Tante Riva, so we'd come to London. I remember once so when you went to France, so to the mountains, they were like sisters together. Bobby and Tante Riva were sisters. They were like two schoolgirls. And people thought they were actually sisters. And Karen Horror, once again, had that tremendous amount of chayis and love and Ibegegebenkeit. And to finally finish, and for us in London, Baruch Hashem, I remember when, by the way, Zaidi, some of you may know, and I'm not talking about the Zaydis like us here, the married kids that are Zaydis, but Zaidi Junik, he never went to a restaurant. And I remember he once said, was ich so gehen zahlen Geld am Menschen können sehen wie ich esse? He said, I should go to a restaurant and pay money that people should see how I eat. So I remember we were once in London, and Bubby wanted to go to a restaurant to eat. And we were living then in Richmond, far out. And she said, Zaidi, I said, don't worry, Ma, come. Anyways, so Zaidi asked where we're going. I said, we're going to go to Green. Anyway, so we came to a place, and we walked out of the car, and as we go to the door of the restaurant, Zaidi said, ich gehe nicht da rein. I said, at the Mama will gain a bisschen lesson, have a good time. And Zaidi wouldn't go in, but not because he was extreme. It had nothing to do with Zaidi being extreme. It was, Zaidi had principles. He lived his life a certain way, what he ate, what he didn't eat, him. So as much as Bubby wanted, Zaidi also knew, that was talk about Bubby's boundaries. Bubby wanted something, but Zaidi also knew what was important for him, but also the message he was leaving for us. And the Eibishter helfen, that now that we are Beis Nissan, und Xaven Lozachaich mit Hashem, Bubby and Zaidi, have Yiddish for the kinder, Ureine Klach and alle Derts in Sevision, as the Rebbe said. And most importantly, we should be able to create our homes in the same atmosphere as Bubby and Zaidi did. Pash Leb mit dem Rebbe, and Achnosus Archim, an open home, and where there was tremendous amount of love. And even the running around the table, we see it as a beautiful dance.
At this time of the program, we're going to have a very touching special video that was prepared and put together by one of our beautiful nieces. I'm going to ask her to come up for 1 minute so everyone can see who she is. Mushki Kievman, please come up for 1 minute. Come up to the stage. I want everyone to see who Mushki is and what she has done. It's super impressive. And the voice behind the video is going to be Mushki Kievman. Am I correct? Yes. All right, guys. Enjoy the video. We're asking everyone to be quiet. It is a very special video. The video is 7 minutes long, and this is the schedule moving forward. 7 minutes long. Then we're going to have a 10-minute break that you can have dessert, and then we're going to start with the speeches of the nieces and nephew.
Bubby Junik was born as Fruma Pevsner on Chaf Tes Sivan 1932 in the city of Minsk, Belarus. She was born to her parents Zayda Avram Baruch and Baba Altasar Tzarto. She was the fifth of 7 children: Hillel, Shalom Ber, Yudis, Yitzchak Shleime, Fruma, Nechama, and Menachem Mendel. Bubby's early years were spent in Minsk, where her father had been sent by the Rebbe Rashab to be the Rav of the community. Her childhood was characterized by her family's tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, beginning with the family's forced move to Kharkov as a young girl, her father's painful arrest and exile, then later living alone with her cousins in Moscow while evading the poisonous Russian schools and her fearful flight from the Nazis. After fleeing to Stalingrad with her relatives, young Fruma was finally reunited with her family in Samarkand. She then journeyed to Lvov, a stop on her way to Paris. She lived in Paris for many years as a young adult, awaiting a visa to the United States of America. She attended a school in the Paris suburbs and was part of a delegation sent by her school to welcome Rebbetzin Chana. It was also in Paris that Bubby met her future in-laws, and upon arrival in America, she became the bashful new bride of Zaidi Beryl Junik. Bubby and Zaidi had the unique zechus of the Rebbe being the Sadr Kedushin at their wedding, setting a firm foundation for a home devoted to the Rebbe. Rebbetzin Chana also attended the wedding and famously smiled for a picture with Bubby that graces many homes. Bubby ran a home that was full of warmth and excitement. Bubby was always generous with her love and time and drew every family member in close, smothering us with kisses and hugs and delicious hot food. She was a supremely capable and confident powerhouse of a leader. No woman in Crown Heights was more loud nor proud than our dear Bubby. She spearheaded Neshei Chabad for 10 years with determination and grace, later becoming its regal president. Whether it was fundraising, creating, or giving, Bubby was always sure to add her legendary energy, imbuing beauty and instilling purpose into every cause that she embraced. Bubby was a mother first and valued family above all. She took her children's chinuch seriously and followed the Rebbe's harais with dedication. She was also deeply connected to her beloved sisters, and they spent much time visiting one another. Bubby had an unmistakable and legendary flair for fashion. She stood with a poise and elegance that were matched only by her vibrance and charisma. Every room Bubby entered came alive, and she loved to sing and dance. Bubby's biggest pride and joy forever remained in her role as Zaidi's wife. Bubby always said that she won the jackpot with Zaidi and felt lucky and privileged. She held immense respect and value for Zaidi as the Rebbe's Mishamish B'Kaidesh and was wholly committed to the Rebbe's ideals, and cultivating a life and home built on Hasidic values. Bubby was extremely dedicated to the Rebbe and Rebbitzin. She had the zchus to write a Sefer Torah in the Rebbitzins' memory, which the Rebbe was extremely appreciative of. In later years, Bubby also led Nishei Chabad's efforts in writing a Sefer Torah for the Rebbe. Together with Zadie, Bubby raised a beautiful, strong family, born of deep roots and bound by strong ties that will forever connect us to where we come from and who we are today.
I always knew my Bubby was the crown-eyed queen. In her empire kingdom she reigned supreme. When the doorbell chimed by the open door, she'd stand, and from far and wide they know that you're in unique land. The intercom shuts out a mighty who's there. Ich habe gute Appetit, Kugel for dear. Chocolate aromas drifting down, 8 o'clock all around, and as soon as you'd come in, she'd kiss you from cheek to chin. And when I grow up, no matter what life brings, I want to be as majestic as my Bubby. I want to share care and give, bring nachas and how I live to my dearest Bubby Junik, whom everybody knows and loves. And when I grow up, no matter what life brings, want to be as majestic as my Bubby. I want to share care and give, bring nachas and how I live to my dearest Bubby Junik, whom everybody knows and loves. We love to sleep in the Junik castle. Hosting family is never too much hassle. We gather around the table each chance that we are able, with a latke on our plate, hearing stories of each day. And from her royal palace she travels far and wide, dispensing the king's stories with pride. The universe comes knocking just to hear our Bubby talking. Mrs. Junik must be there, or a party can't compare. And when I grow up, no matter what life brings, I want to be as majestic as my Bubby. I want to share care and give, bring nachas and how I live to my dearest Bubby Junik, whom everybody knows and loves. And of course she is known to one and all, Our Lady of the Year, Bella of the Ball. We wish her the finest stuff, brachas from Aleph to Tav, until Mashiach does arrive and Zadie's at her side. And when I grow up, no matter what life brings, I want to be as majestic as my Bubby. I want to share, care and give, bring nachas and how I live to my dearest Bubby Junik, whom everybody knows and loves. And when I grow up, no matter what life brings, I want to be as majestic as my Bubby. I want to share, care and give, bring nachas and how I live to my dearest Bubby Junik, whom everybody knows and loves.
If we can get the lights. All right, at this point, we decided that we're not taking a break, but just want to let everyone know that there is dessert in the center of the table. So as the speeches are going on, you're welcome to pick up some dessert. I would like to now call a very, very dear nephew of mine, a shliach in Vermont, who's going to inherit the Popek Yerusha one day, maybe. And somebody that really developed into a Talmud Chacham. I've seen it on many occasions. And you can see that Tata is a Zun. There's no question. But obviously, Tzipi, with your intellect. Anyways, I'd like to introduce my dear, dear nephew, Eliyahu Junik.
Good evening. I'll be brief as time is running. So a lot of the things that I wanted to say obviously was said by the sons. So I'll just repeat one point. And Itchel asked me not to say a Dvar Torah, and I will try to get him. On Pesach, we know we say Maschil Bignus Messiah B'Shevach. That when by the Agada, the night of Pesach, we don't just speak about the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim, but rather we start the Bignus. We start saying that we start saying also the sufferings and the different things that our forefathers had, like Avraham Avinu served the Avodah Zarah, Terach, and we speak about the slavery that Yidden went through. And only then do we say that now the Eibishter drew us close to him, and the Eibishter took us out of Mitzrayim. And Mefarshim ask, what is the objective, really, of speaking about Bignus, of that our forefathers served the Avodah Zarah, or going into the details of the slavery? Shouldn't we just speak about the miracles that transpired? There's a lot of different answers. One of the answers is that because the evening of the night of Pesach is to try to teach our children that notwithstanding the hardships that they themselves have in their lives, which could be in a lot of different ways, nonetheless, there's still a way out. The Eibishter could still help them, and they do not have to be defined with their past. I think this idea really brings about Bubby's life. As Shamshi mentioned before, Bubby grew up without a father. Her father passed away when she was very, very young. As Bubby got older, she used to speak about it more. I remember her telling me that when she was in France, she was very, very jealous of all the other people. Everyone else had a father and a mother and had a life, and she was by herself. She only had a mother, and she was missing her father. And as she got older, she used to speak about it more and more, which means that it always sat on her heart. And even after her father passed away, she didn't grow up with her mother. She was sent away to Moscow, to Gutabela, and she was there for quite a while. And she really had a very, very hard childhood. And she could have chose to really seep into that and to be defined by that and be sad. And as we say today, be traumatized and carry all this trauma. But we saw Bubby, as all the sons and the daughter said, Bubby was always happy, excited, always looked forward to things, was always had a sparkle in her eyes, was always very, she brought life to everything and always exciting to bring around. This is, I think, an important lesson that we could take, notwithstanding all the things that we go through, that we went through. I think it's a very important lesson that Bubby taught us not to be defined by the different very, very hardships that she went through. Just want to mention a few things. When I was growing up, so I was always very excited. Me and Itchel davened together with Zayda usually, with Rapkin on my right and Meir Itkin on the other side, and it was hard because Itchel used to fight with me, and I got caught up, and there was two older people on the side, which I did not appreciate, as it was called the Stiffen. Then we used to go to Bubby's house to eat. And my sisters reminded me that we were once barred from going in the same day that the girls went because there was too much stiffing going around. And I think me, Itchel, and Henoch weren't allowed to be there together because of all the trouble that we caused. But we had very, very beautiful memories of being there. The ice cream that Bubby served, and the salad, and all the hartachala that she used to collect from everyone to eat. And we had very, very nice memories of always going and hanging around, etc. I'll end here, as I'm sure there are other people.
I remember I was going to Camp Gan Yisrael, New York. I was a little kid, and I remember my sister Nechama strolling with a carriage down Eastern Parkway, and it was my first niece. I was so excited to meet my first niece, who has been dear to me, who has certainly made the family very, very proud, and has Kanain Hara built a beautiful family together with her husband Levi, and Chani has always brought joy to everybody. Talking about Chani Munshine, Chani has very special memories of my mother, especially as being the oldest grandchild, one of the older grandchild. So I'm sure she has some interesting stories and a perspective to share. Chani.
Yeah, much lower. Thank you. Wow. I am actually literally overwhelmed. It's incredible to be here. Da Mojna, da. Bubby actually understood one of the things I was one of the last people she understood, because she understood my Russian until the end. It's really, really, really incredible. We always say that Bubby is larger than life. And to be here in this room and to hear, on the one hand, we're talking about, literally a refugee girl who grew up as an orphan, and just take a look around and look at what Baruch Hashem K'nai Nahara, what Bubby and Zaidi built together. It is just, this is a testament to her. This is really incredible. So I was, Baruch Hashem, as you know, Zeicha to be the first granddaughter. Chani is my very close partner in crime over here. And so we were at that stage where we have all the privileges of being grandkids and none of the obligations of being kids. So I was the one who would sit on Bubby's, together with my sister Shayna too, I would sit on Bubby's washing machine and dryer as it vibrates, and I would watch her make the fish heads on Rosh Hashanah, and she would tell me, don't push the eye in, and what did I go do? Push the eye in. She would make us punchiki. We came in from out of town, like they said. Bubby was an immaculate housewife, immaculate. But we took over the house. First of all, Chani Spielman, poor Chani Spielman, had to do with all of us touching her stuff, taking out her games, not putting them back. We had a rotation. Someone sleeps on the bed next to Chani. Someone sleeps on the floor in her room. And then someone has a choice between a mattress on the dining room floor or the kitchen bench. Those are your choices. The walking machine was a very coveted spot because at least people don't kick you in the middle of the night. And Zaidi would feel so bad for us. He would set up our mattresses in the living room with so much love and care. Most of my memories of Bubby growing up are these strong, fierce love, larger than life. I would come up the stairs from these long trips, and I would literally be like this because those kisses hurt. They literally hurt. Bubby would cush you, and ooh, I'm like, oh, Bubby, I need to go get another bag. Please just let me go. We would go to 770 with Bubby. I must say, I was actually just now looking at some of my, I looked up my name under Gem Pictures, the Rebbe pictures, because it was just Chaf of Adar. I wanted to show my students that I got dollars on that last day. I had the privilege that Bubby took me so many times, just me and Shayna. She would take us to the Rebbe. She would take us to 770. I was embarrassed. Bubby would like push her way through to the front. My uncle is here. She needs to see. She comes from Pittsburgh. You have to let her see. I'm like, Bubby. No, to the front. We need matzah. We need wine. It's Mashiach Soda. Zaya gut. I was beyond chalishing from embarrassment, but Bubby did it all for us. She really did. But what I want to say, what stuck with me, beyond some of these like big, loud messages, of Bubby, of like, everybody knew we'd go to the community council, she'd give us $2, we would go to the pizza shop, she would offer us pizza, we would take a bite, she would take a bite, and then I was like, Bubby, just take the rest. It's fine, it's yours, just take it. I couldn't but what actually, really, truly, is the real foundation are Bubby's subtle messages. I know you don't put Bubby together with subtle, but Bubby valued education before it was a thing for women. Bubby valued education. She valued learning. She would sit, she would learn chitas, she would learn Tanya every single day with Zaidi, especially from her Rebbe's Tanya. She would be davening and saying her Tehillim on her treadmill every single day. She had such respect for Zaidi, for Zaidi's values. Incredible shalom bayis. Incredible, like we spoke about, Bubby would just do everything on her own to support her father, her husband. Every single kid of Bubby's is unique and different, literally. And Bubby supported every child in their way. She did what it took. And she, as much as Bubby was, like we said, she was there and she was immaculate, when it came to to what other people needed, she put herself aside. Her home, which was always so immaculate, it had our suitcases strewn all over the place. This dining room, which had to host tens and tens of people, had open suitcases with tights coming out, literally, on the floor. And she never said a word. She never said a word. We know some of the keywords, like Zaya Zegut, right? Everyone, Zaya Zegut, and I would run away. I didn't want to hear that word. I'm not being sent on another errand. Go to Heshi's for the cocoa. Go to the corner store for the fruits and vegetables. Take out the garbage by the corner. Lerman's, we had our, what's it called? So I was thinking about it now, just coming to Pesach, and I was walking up the stairs, and I was imagining if I was walking up the stairs now, in the good old days, now, or give it a week, next week, and I'm walking into Bubby's house. First of all, her living room would have this big, white, folding table. They were heavy metal things in those days. They weren't these like light things from Costco, right? Her living room would have this big, heavy metal table. It would have these huge silver bowls that once upon a time in a previous Gilgal were used in the matzah baking, right? And there would be tons of stuff and potato kugels going on, and there would be this huge miftzah, make the fish with Avraham Baruch, and it was as sweet as the sweet potatoes were that year. And, again, Bubby did everything the way Zaidi wanted. We didn't use the water, we didn't use the soap, we only used the lemon. We definitely used the schmaltz, definitely. And the grand crescendo of any Pesach was those matzah balls. Did they come out hard? Did they come out soft? How, and then, and of course we're preparing this all very, very quickly because we have to have it. And then, oh, yes. The making of the matzah mel was a very big avodah. We all remember that. Everything had to be dry, and you made the matzah mel and all that kind of stuff. But Bubby would not compromise a single standard. And then the second Pesach was over. Zaidi was gone. The men were gone. Bubby sat there, no soap, just, cold water, washing it all up, putting it all away. And we went from this very large family, gathering which we had, which was a big part of representing who Bubby was, to the second part of representing who Bubby was, which was the behind the scenes, doing what it takes to just, to make sure that the Rebbe gets what he needs, because above all, Bubby was a chassid, to make sure that the family has what they need, because above all, Bubby was a mother, and, to just be the very, to be Bubby, because that's who Bubby was. And in Mirz Hashem, we should just, be reunited with her. Mashiach should find his GPS, and we should just see her very, very soon with the coming of Mashiach.
Anyways, Domino, what? Everyone knows the famous song, Domino, Domino. So I would like to introduce another niece of mine from the older nieces who has a tremendous amount of passion, wears her heart on her sleeve, has so much love to give to everyone, and in her shlichus, I see, and to her nieces and nephews, and it's just dripping of love. I'm going to ask now my dear niece, the mother of Mushki Kievman, and the wife of my camper, Yossi Kievman.
Hi, cousins. I feel like I fought with each of you up and down the hallways, and I know you so much better than sitting in front of you on a microphone. But let me share something about Bubby that deeply touched me, and something about Bubby that I've been crystallizing all week. We all know about Bubby's flair for fashion, her cooking. Those were all the outside Bubby. Who was Bubby in the inside? And I realized, as I took some time, is that everything I am as a shlucha, as a chassid, every moment I had with the Rebbe was always with Bubby Junik. I remember Bubby Junik was the person who took us to Farbrengens, pushed us through, like my sister Chani shared. But more than that, Bubby had this beautiful simplicity, this emunah pshuta, this absolute love for the Rebbe, this love for the Eibusher, like an open, honest person. And I remember a couple small moments that nobody was looking, and I remember those are the things that really made me the chassid I am today. I remember when it came to davening bisman. When it was mincha time, Bubby would take a sitter and put it into everyone's hands and say, mincha, 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 almost like, those beepers would go off. And I remember in the olden days during, we would call, before beepers, we'd call a number to find out if the Rebbe came out, if the Rebbe was Farbrengen. And the house Bubby would say, stop, let's call and see what's happening with the Rebbe. And she had such excitement like a child, such energy like a bacher. She made us so excited to see Farbrengens, though we would come to Farbrengens and they were very long and it was hard to see. But Bubby had such energy and love and excitement for the Rebbe. Her face would light up like a little child. And I remember that raw, open love that Bubby had for the Rebbe, and that's the love I hope to carry with me. Another thing about Bubby is that she was really a Fruma Yid. She was Fruma. She really lived up to her name. In brachais, when you wake up in the morning, she would say, "Oi, negavasar brachais," and those small reminders were like, "Here's who I am. Here's who I am." And I remember specifically being one time with Bubby, and the Bubby said, "The Rebbe is a melech. The Rebbe is a melech." And there were people talking, and she would say, "Shah, shah, shah." She would get up on her thing and say, "Shah, shah, shah. The melech ret, the melech ret." And I remember to Bubby, the Rebbe was the king. I think about the pride that Bubby had when after Zaidi would come back from Karshal Bracha on Matzah Yom Tif, and Zaidi would have red hands from the grape juice that he was pouring, and Bubby was so proud. Did you see Zaidi's hand? Zaidi's hand is from pouring for the Rebbe, for giving Karshal Bracha. So everything I see in Bubby I saw an excited, passionate chassid of the Rebbe, someone who as a child didn't have a chance to be a chassid and loved the Rebbe with such open abandon. She had a hiskashras And I remember in the later years, she would go to shiurim, she would go to farbrengens, go to neshei Chabad things, but she really, really felt close to be makosher to the Rebbe. So I think about Bubby in the hard times. I think about Bubby in the gritty times. I think about Bubby as I set up my Pesach pop-up shop at 2 o'clock in the morning, how Bubby would power through with a grit and determination that only Bubby could. I knew when I was with Bubby, I was always safe. Bubby had these huge, confident shoulders that carried us, our family, and the entire extended family, and we knew that if Bubby was here, there was no problem too big. So I have Bubby, I was able to be given through Shamshi Bubby's Leichter, and every single Friday night I close my eyes and I bench Shamshi. They were gifted to me when Bubby Junik was alive, so all is well in the neighborhood. Sorry that I'm starting family politics, but Bubby Junik knew about, somehow I light Shabbos candles that belong to Bubby, somehow. And every time I light those Shabbos candles, I close my eyes and I remember when Bubby would light Shabbos candles, she had this, like, the makeup, the screaming, the yelling, the mopping, but she had this moment with the Eibishter that I was able to think and feel. And every single Friday night, I close my eyes, I light Bubby's candles, and I hope to bring that innocence, love, and passion of being a chassid, of being the Eibishter's child, to my family and to my shlachas. So, lots of love and good things.
I just want to set expectations on this program. So the next speaker, I will introduce them in 1 minute, is one of the nieces sitting to my right. Apparently older nephew is a little bit shy. I have one niece who can't resist, even if she's not here, to say a few words. And it's going to be obvious once you hear her voice. You know exactly who it is. And then, Achroin Chaviv, we're going to have the matriarch of another huge Junik dynasty, Riva Junik, my mother's twin, her sister from another mother, will say a couple words. So I would like to introduce one of my nieces from the Bechor of the Junik family. She married a Talmud Chacham, somebody that introduced learning in Lubavitch, that it's okay, it's cool again for younger light, even after you get married, to come after work and to learn in Beis Medrash and have a share together. I would like to introduce Batsheva Brad, who's always been there for Bubby, has always come around, always showed her love, and she will introduce her siblings, her mother, her father spoke, and everyone else. Batsheva.
Proud. I'll say it loud and proud. My Bubby, forever 18. Our Bubby, our matriarch, charm and elegance were her trademark. She was the queen of our family. She was forever 18. Bubby was born in Russia during times of communist unrest. Baba Alta had to manage as her husband was under arrest. Gotabela and her kids raised Bubby as their own. 4 long years, mother and father were not known. Living in Samarkand, a taste of normalcy she had. Making friends her age, she sure was glad. With travails they traveled, taking wagons and trains. It was all so dangerous, and they did it without complaint. Finally arrived in Paris, so pretty and quaint, when she was nearly 18. In France, she was free from the cruel grasp of tyranny. In Boise, she went to school, worked hard, followed the rules. She graduated so proud, ready to be an educator, she avowed. to try her best on that third grade crowd when she was 18. Engaged to be married, now in the US of A, Beis Nissan, hey, that's 71 years ago today. On Tes Yud Sivan they married, their future secured. Misader Kedushin, the Rebbe is pictured, creating a connection so pure that will always endure when she was 18. 8 handkerchiefs were gifted, and soon it was clear, the bracha so dear, our Bubby became a mother. Once, twice, then again. Baruch Hashem for all 8 of them when she was 18. Bubby had so much energy and drive, she helped the growing community thrive, running the Sheikh Chabad for many years, fulfilling the mandate the Rebbe gave with tears. Working at the CHJCC, helping people was dear. Getting donations for the thrift store was a source of pride, knowing she helped the local school survive when she was 18. Grandchildren arriving, new joys to behold, becoming a Bubby, a milestone to be extolled. Cuddling babies, Shabbos sleepovers galore, Sukkos on the porch, latkes on Hanukkah for sure. Decked out in costumes on Purim afternoons, Pesach peeling potatoes and deciding if cucumbers will do. On Shavuos we ate blintzes and cheesecake times 4, till our tummies said absolutely no more when she was 18. Wachnachts and Brissim and Upsharons and then the grandkids' bar mitzvahs and graduations to attend. Soon enough their engagements, then weddings sublime. Bubby always showed up dressed to the nines. Makeup always on point, fine jewelry and shoes, she did not disappoint when she was 18. Those hours we spent with Bubby and Zadie, setting the tables and running around like crazy. Our incredible childhoods full to the brim, with memories of their love and delicious kotletin. I still can't believe it, time flew by so fast. Hashem made a decree, Zadie was sick and then passed. Bubby was strong and resilient, it wasn't easy and yet, she was an example I will never forget when she was 18. Great-grandchildren and a dares in Savishin, we gave Bubby much nachas with every addition. She kept up with our lives, loved taking our calls. She relished our visits and singing some songs. She never took for granted the choice to be besimcha using her voice. Singing songs together we rejoiced when she was 18. She kept up her Tehillim and Tanya daily that she had started learning together with Zadie. She pointed inside, taking her time, connecting to Hashem, asking for the Geula She'elema was her anthem. Mashiach lost his GPS was her quote. It was really a serious joke when she was 18. It's now our turn to impress that Mashiach has lost his GPS on the coming generations, this important foundation that speaks of our salvation when we will see our beloved Bubby again. She is forever 18.
I got to tell you about Sheva, really surprised me. I did not realize that she's going to say a poem. If I would have known that it was a poem, I would have made the proper introduction. It's really, really beautiful. I want to introduce a shlucha of the Rebbe in Palm Beach. One second. A shlucha of the Rebbe in Palm Beach. She is the one that is responsible for the interview that you see on your table of Bubby, Shayna Stulik. She interviewed Bubby in 1988, and she interviewed Zadie as well. And this is something that became historic and part of the family record. We're going to ask Shayna to say a couple words. Shayna, go.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hear all of you, and it is so touching. I want to start off by first thanking our aunts and uncles for the most beautiful care that was given to Zadie and the most beautiful care that was given to Bubby, and the most unconditional love that has been showered upon me and my siblings and my cousins from when I was a child. There is nothing like a eunuch aunt or uncle always stepping up and giving to us in incredible ways. And I use you as a paradigm for how I should be an aunt and uncle. Oh no, I can only be an aunt. And I'm falling short. What I wanted to say is that the miraculous life that Bubby had and the direct way that she did everything was evident to me on the day of her levaya. So from when we went from 770 to Beis HaChaim, there was like a 40-minute drive. And in the middle of the drive, I get a telephone number call from a 718 number. And I thought, maybe someone is visiting the hotel across the street. That's very common to have a 718. So I pick up, and the person says, "Hi, this is Zalman from JNet." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Could you learn with a young girl from London?" And I was gobsmacked. I said, "Oh my goodness, Bubby's so direct." I couldn't believe that before she was even buried, I had a way to do something in her schus. And I need to tell you that on Wednesdays, I have one free day, and it's Wednesday. And it's not easy to get on the phone and talk to someone on the phone for an hour. But I do it with schus Bubby. And it's sort of bizarre that I have this connection with this hip 21-year-old in London, and I teach her Torah, but it's clearly with schus Bubby. So 20 minutes after that happened, I get to the aisle. We all had to run to the ladies' room because we were in the car for hours. I washed Negavasser, and I went to the video. It's hard to talk about. And I knew I would get a sign from Bubby. And there, where the women were walking by, one after another. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting close. Bubby's got to be there soon. And she hadn't walked by. And then I looked again, and Bubby was standing behind the rebel like a sentry the entire video. And it was just the most insane welcome to her temporary resting place. But it was just so Bubby. The whole day of the levaya was 100% Bubby. I just want to say one of my if I had to say one memory that was the favorite, because I know that I'm over the phone, it would be that Bubby and Zadie had a routine when it came to the firings that marked Shabbos. So Zadie would tell us to pick a side of the room of the house, and we'd have to go to one side or the other. Am I still there? Yeah. And he would quickly wash the floor, put on the fan for it to dry, and Bubby would run to her blue bathroom to put on makeup. And oh, was it fun to see somebody get dressed up? And it really annoyed her that I would watch her. And I convinced her, I said, "Bubby, how else am I going to learn how to put on makeup?" So she would abide, and I would stand and watch Bubby put on makeup. And then Zayn was running to go to 770, and he's saying, "Fruma, no, good enough with the schmieren sich," because he wanted to watch her like bench lift and then go to 770. And those were such precious moments and memories. And just in conclusion, I really had a good opportunity to think the last hour and a half, because I realized that I could really use more of Bubby's Simchas HaChaim in just facing the medium challenges of my own life. Bubby had immense challenges, and she showed up with joy and levity, and I should be able to do the same, and the Mitzvah Shem continue to make Bubby proud. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shana. Before I introduce the last speaker, I just want to give a little program note that we will learn Mishnayos right after the last speaker. The men are going to sit all together. We have the Mishnayos printed out. And after that, we're going to daven Ma'ariv. We're asking everybody, all the males, over Bar Mitzvah, to please stick around. Everyone's needed. How do I lift this? I can go like this. I want to lower it. You understand? No. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Yep. I want to introduce my aunt, someone I grew up with when I was a little kid, and then when I was a head counselor in Belgium, we used to go to her for Shabbos, and many Shabbosin. And we've always seen her come around my parents' house. She was like a sister to my mother. She was always there together with my mother. I know they had big plans to travel the world. And it might have happened maybe once, 2 or 3 times that my mother started not getting well. But it was incredible that even till today, whenever you see my Aunt Riva, there's a certain simchas achayim that she has. There's a connection that you feel to the older generation, something that a lot of us, unfortunately, don't see. And obviously, we want to give her a bracha, that she should have a riches yamim, vishanim tevis, gesundheit. She'll be able to dance by the 1 o'clock, or 1 o'clock, when all of there is insufficient. I'd like to introduce Riva Junik. I'm asking everybody to please be quiet and show respect. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Don't run away. First of all, I want to say good evening to everybody, and I was very happy I could attend. I was here in New York right now. I would like to give him a chelik because it's not fair what you did to me. Everybody prepared something. You didn't tell me anything. You didn't prepare. Now you talk. What could I say? Everything was already said. I don't know why, but we were really like sisters. I knew Fruma when she was a young girl in France. And in France, there was somebody who was living there, was from Agudas Yisrael, and he wanted Fruma for a color. I happened to move to Antwerp, and that person also lived, he's not here anymore, but so whenever he used to meet me, he said, "How is Fruma?" And he used to ask me every time I met him, even when he was on a bike, he would stop and say, "Was macht Fruma?" I don't remember his name. Von Agudas Yisrael, I don't remember his name. Well, I'll say just a few things, but David, you're really not fair with me because I didn't prepare anything, okay? So that's it. So whenever we came to Fruma in the house, she used to tell me like this. Mach sich wie bei sich. Sag ich, Fruma, give me some work. If you want me to feel like at home, just let me help you. No. Okay, she did and she did not, gedenk ich nicht. I don't remember. We were always happy to have her Koteletten with the mashed potatoes. Sure, this is so. What am I supposed to say? Was? So, once I wasn't feeling too well, so the doctor told me that you have to go to the mountains to have fresh, good air. So I went by myself, and Levi heard that, and Fruma was in England by Menachem. So he said, you're by yourself? No. I'm going to call Fruma. She's in England. He called up Fruma, and he said, Fruma, my mama is weggefahren auf die Berg. Ja, sie dort allein. Komm ich mit ihr. Why? Hast schon ein Ticket? Sagt Levi, bist du verlieren einmal ein Ticket? Marasch, also gefällig. She came, and we sent people, we sent the Menahel from the hotel, was in a hotel, to pick her up. She came by plane, and we went together all over. All over we went together. I was a big walker. She was not such a big walker. So once I said, Fruma, I have to walk. The doctor told me I have to walk. And so she waited for me. And of course, I went a little more. When I came back, she said, what did you do? I was waiting for you. Why do you have to walk for so long? We had a great time. We were in the same room. We really had a great time. Next year, I was planning to go to the mountains. Somebody is calling me up at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning from New York. Fruma, halte mit geschlafen, what are you doing? Ich habe nicht gehabt, da passiert eine andere Zeit bei dir. So what happened was herzig. Nu, wenn fahren wir weiter? So sind wir gefahren weiter, noch einmal. And we enjoyed it very much, very much. Motze Shabbos einmal, sie gewann Spätchen im Hotel, und mit geschmeckt sehr gut die Challes. Kommt da raus in English, is better? Nein, es ist gut in Yiddish. Es kommt da raus die Nechama, sie tegiert Nechama. Und sie geht Frumen, a warme Challe, wo sie gemacht für Shabbos. Fruma nimmt die Challe und sie sagt, ich gehe sich waschen. Gib mir Putter, sagt sie. Ich beschmiere mit Putter die Challe. Du schnitt auf 2, beschnitt mit Putter. Wow, sagt sie. Sie hat keinmal nicht gegessen, sehr gut. Also eine gute Challe mit Putter frische. Sagt sie mir, na, du nimm ich. So, ich nehme 12 Uhr bei Nacht, weil ich gehe nehmen eine Challe mit Putter. Ja. So, die Lady vom Hotel ist gegangen, gebracht mir eine Challe mit Putter. Und sie hat gegeben, sehr gut, wie sie das gesagt hat, sie gegeben, Kedai das zu essen. Now, da in New York, in Gas, Menschen ständig haben gesagt, bist du Fruma? You look like sisters. You look like sisters. You speak like sisters. You're the same vehicle, like two sisters. Was a big compliment for me, you know. But one of her sons, I won't tell you who, stayed by me in the house, and he says, du rest Punkt also wie die Mama, und du schreist also wie die Mama, und du gehst auf Raschka also wie die Mama. Listen, we are Russian characters. We cannot help it, okay? She had a lot of energy, and I, Baruch Hashem, have a lot of energy. The Rebbe gave me weiter mit energy. And we danced and we sang together. We like to dance, we like to sing. And when she sang, even nicht as ay, 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 when I used to come, so I used to sing her, Maya Krasavitsa, and she would push with her hands. She was happy when I was singing that. Every time I came to see her, that was the song. I'm very sad that she's not here anymore. I must say, I miss her very much. So hat man richtig in Gan Eden. Und wir sollen sich sehen, sich zusammen alle, als ich sagen, mit allem da erfunden. Fruma, I loved you and I still love you.
Gotta say, that's pretty amazing for no practice.
If anyone lost a pearl earring, it's in my hand. Pearl earring. Anyone lost a pearl earring? All right. And we're going to ask older men to sit down next to Shamshi. We're going to start learning Mishnayos. And after Mishnayos, we will daven Maariv. I want to thank everybody that is, everyone that's watching live. I hope everyone appreciated it. Hope everyone was able to learn something from Bubby. Bubby like this, you don't see too often. Someone that's able to impact and has inspired so many people. And the personality that Bubby had is something that you certainly don't see around. Anyways, I hope everyone appreciated it. And I thought it was really, really beautiful. All right, thank you. Shamshi. Where's Shamshi? Yeah, I would say I think we can close the live, right? All we're going to do is we're going to be learning now Mishnayos. Does that have to be live? I don't know, but I think daven Maariv and then do Mishnayos? Yeah. All right, everyone said we should daven Maariv first, and then afterwards that will learn Mishnayos. Guys, I hope it's okay for shutting the live. Unless you guys want to see what's going on, we can turn the camera around. It's up to you guys.